Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our program on intermittent fasting. I'm Mary Elizabeth Fukai, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Women's Philanthropy Board. And for those of you who might not be familiar with the Women's Philanthropy Board or our programming, we are a division of the Carey Center for the Advancement of Philanthropy and Nonprofit Studies, which is housed in the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University. And we offer a wide variety of programming on lots of different topics, usually with special importance to women and or personal financial management. We also sponsor mentoring initiatives within the university, as well as practice collective philanthropy by giving back to the College of Human Sciences in the form of scholarships and grants each year. I did want to let you know that this session is being recorded and will be posted to our WPB YouTube channel. And I've got the link posted in chat, but if you can't see it, I'll post it again here in a second. We have a lot of content from previous sessions, previous programming that's on that YouTube channel. So we'll have the link there so you can share it or go back and watch this again or any of our previous programming at a later time. For today's program, we wanted to address a topic that has gotten a lot of attention. There's been a lot of buzz around it lately, and that is intermittent fasting. And we're lucky to have a Department of Nutritional Sciences within the College of Human Sciences. And Lily Zandia has been working to study the science behind intermittent fasting. So we're so glad that she's able to join us today to enlighten us on whether it works, it doesn't work, how it works. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Lily is currently a doctoral student in the nutrition doctoral program at Auburn. She's completing her final year for her PhD. She is originally from Southern California and came to Auburn University in 2017 to complete her dietetic internship and Master of Science in Nutrition degree. She focuses on nutrition, exercise, hydration, respiration, and sleep. And Lily, we're so glad to have you with us today. So I will let you take it over.
Thank you, Mary. I'm so excited to be here, and I want to thank WPB for hosting this and allowing me to share this information with y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's do this. Okay, and I will start. All right, so let's see here. I know you guys can see it. Okay, there we go. All right, intermittent fasting, fact, fiction, or fad. Let's get right into it. And one thing that I want to preface this with is my goal is to have y'all just to have a basic understanding of what it is. If you can apply it to your lifestyle, great. If not, but let's go into it in further detail. We're going to talk briefly about the background history, about what it is, where did it even really get brought up, come about, the different approaches and methods to intermittent fasting. There's 5 that we're going to go over. I have a couple review articles, not much. Some of the research can be a little bit difficult with regards to ethical studies because you're not letting humans eat for like 24 hours. And we'll talk about what is recommended to eat while you fast, some pros and cons, and then we'll finish with discussion and questions. Intermittent fasting, think of it this way. It's not a matter of what you are eating, rather when you are eating. It is a time restricted diet, if you will, not a calorie restricted diet. Let's think back in the day, like way back, prehistoric times. Before humans learned how to farm, they are hunting and they are gathering. And what did that require? A lot of time and energy. So already they are at a energy deficit. They're burning more calories than they are consuming. Let's fast forward. to 60 years ago, where there were no computers and TV was turned off by 11. People stopped eating and they went to bed. Portions were smaller, and generally more people were more active. They'd be outside and they would be working and whatnot. Let's go to today. We have TV and internet available 24/7, 365. We're staying awake for longer hours. We are sitting and snacking more throughout the day. And I put an asterisk by this therefore, because all of this extra calories and less activity is going to increase the risk and lead to the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes and other illnesses. Intermittent fasting came about because of our obesity pandemic and because of that. So these are things to just keep in mind. How does intermittent fasting work? All of the different types that we're going to go over are based on regular periods of eating and fasting. Okay. That means we need to be consistent. It's not a matter of, oh, I'll fast this week and a month later I'll do another fast. The body, the hormones might go a little haywire. That's why having regular and being consistent, and that mindset or that method works for anything. When you're exercising, if you're trying to get into a regular sleeping pattern, it needs to be consistent. What happens in the body, basically, when we normally eat, we're using our glycogen stores. Our glycogen stores are what is providing us the energy to be sustained throughout the day. So when we're fasting for long periods of time, let's say, I believe it's around hour 18 is when your glycogen stores are almost completely depleted. So then your body switches to ketones, which is your fat that's stored in your adipose tissue. So the body is now burning ketones instead of glycogen. And some scientists refer to this as the metabolic switch. Okay. All right, so these are the different plans. We've got the daily approach, the 5-2, alternate day fasting, eat, stop, eat, and OMAD, 1 meal a day. Daily approach. This is, you are fasting for 16 hours and you're eating for 8 hours. And typically this is the most standard approach, and you do this every single day. I have outlined this right here. Typically this is I guess the regimen, right? You're eating between 12 and 8 p.m. and you're fasting from 8 p.m. all the way to 12 p.m. Okay. Moving forward to the 5-2 approach. This is where you are eating regularly for 5 days a week, and 2 out of those days you are fasting. On those 2 days, you are allowed to have one 500 to 600 calorie meal. And again, the fasting should be done on non-consecutive days. So here's an example of what a 5-2 method would look like. So day 1, something like Sunday, regular diet. Monday, you're able to have that 1 meal, but you're fasting throughout the rest. Tuesday, Thursday, regular diet, or I'm sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, you're fasting with your 1 meal, and then Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, excuse me. Alternate day fasting is kind of how it sounds. You are fasting every other day. And it's similar to the 5-2 approach, such that on the days, like we see right here, on the days that you are fasting for 24 hours, you are allowed to have that 500 to 600 calorie meal. Eat, stop, eat. Similar to alternate day, or similar to 5-2. However, you are not allowed to have that one 500 calorie meal. You are literally fasting for 24 hours. But you're eating regular 5 days out of the week, but 2 days out of the week, you are fasting for 24 hours. Lastly is OMAD, 1 meal a day. And this has become really popular, I feel like. But it's as the name says, you're eating 1 meal a day. Your 1 meal should provide almost your total caloric needs for the day, because that's what you're going to need to keep you going for the next 23 hours. I haven't read this in literature. I know some people who are currently doing OMAD, and what they've told me is that they'll have, for example, they'll do a protein supplement made with water. So, like a whey protein powder with water, and they'll have 2 of those throughout the day, and then at night they'll have their 1 meal a day. So I've heard of people doing that. Again, this is what a sample plan of what 1 meal a day would look like. All right, so let's go into some literature. And I only have a couple articles, like I said, because more so like of an ethical reason. There's not too many things. And also a lot of the studies discussions came out as inconclusive or insufficient. More literature needs to be done, but the basic overall is that the overall theme is that intermittent fasting does help and can support weight loss, which again, when we go back thinking of where did this whole fad come from, is to approach the obesity epidemic. So this systematic review did 19 intermittent fasting trials, and they found that overall there was a 3 to 12.5% weight loss from their baseline. So from the beginning of the study to the end. So just to give an example, if someone were to start their study and they weigh 200 pounds, a 3% weight loss would be 6 pounds. Similarly with 12.5%. If someone were to weigh, for example, 200 pounds, that's 25-pound weight loss. That's pretty significant. That's pretty big, pretty positive change. Of course, studies combining exercise with intermittent fasting saw an improvement on weight loss and fat loss. And lastly, again, intermittent fasting, the approach may be of benefit with regards to insulin resistance. However, again, this particular study was not effective due to the time duration. I believe it was a shorter study. While we could go over all of the 19, I wanted to just highlight the ones that pertain to what we were talking about. So the first one that I highlighted, tried my best to make straight lines, 2020 study, overweight women over 60 years of age, and they did the daily approach method, the 16 hours of fasting, and you have 8 hours to be able to eat. And their body weight decreased, which is to be expected, right? Because when you think about it, you have less time that you are able to eat. So it kind of makes sense that you would potentially lose weight because you're eating less due to the time restraint. This next study right here did, I believe this one, they did the alternate day fasting, because if you see, it says the 3-day fast, and right here where it says 25 to 30% of caloric needs, just to show you guys really quick, if I'm doing a 2,000 calorie diet, if those are my daily needs, we're going to multiply that by 0.25, 25%. That's where I get the 500 calories. And similarly, we could do the same thing with 30%. I think that is going to be 600. So that's where that number comes out. Of course, depending on the individual's caloric needs, it'll cater to that individual. So that's what they did. So they did the alternate day fasting, and one day ad libitum intake, so as needed, as desired. Again, the results conclusion where that was that short-term intermittent fasting, viable strategy for weight loss. This last one right here, 6-hour fast daily versus usual diet. So they had one group where they did a 6-hour fast daily, and then another group that just had their regular diet. And they found that the ones that did fast led to weight loss compared to control at baseline. Oh, okay. Here, this study right here, they had 3 different groups. They had a alternate day fasting, which was one. They had an exercise group, and then they had an exercise and alternate day fasting. And body weight reduced among all 3 groups. I think it was most significant in the group that had both exercise and alternate day fasting, which is, again, would make sense because you are burning more than you are consuming. This next study right here, the recent study, they also did alternate day fasting, and they also saw significant effect on body weights when combining both intermittent fasting and exercise. And similarly with this next one down here, Joseph et al. In 2020, that weight loss was higher in the intermittent fasting groups. This top study right here is our 5-2 approach. They did 2 days of fasting, and then they did 5 days of usual intake versus calorie restriction. So their key findings were that intermittent fasting is just as effective as calorie restriction for weight loss and insulin sensitivity. So not everyone, for example, might want to have a calorie restrictive diet. I think it's been across the board known to stay away from doing those calorie restrictive diets. So anyways, this next one right here also did a alternated daily. So this one is the, yes, ADF, alternate day fasting. And this study was just saying that it's safe for weight loss strategy. We'll talk about this more, no increased risk of disordered eating. This is a topic that came up a lot with intermittent fasting, but we'll go over that later. And again, it may decrease insulin resistance. So it was really difficult for me to find 1 meal a day studies. And this one, I believe this was in, yes, 2007. So this was kind of a while ago. But I found this one rather interesting, and because here are some notes. First of all, the 1 meal a day group, the OMAD group, and then the regular 3 meals a day group, similar, not that far off in calories. I believe this is like a 3% difference in calories. Interestingly, the subjects who had 3 meals per day decreased their blood pressure by 6%. And if we look over here, that the group that was consuming 1 meal a day had significant increase in blood pressure and in total LDL and HDL cholesterol concentrations. I know that they had those figures controlled, but I just found that a little bit, I don't know, interesting, because that to me means, okay, well, I wonder what they're eating, right? I mean, we obviously want, which we'll go over that later, but it can be difficult when we don't know the exact foods to consume. So for consuming kind of foods that are maybe high in saturated fats, that could maybe cause that. But I just found that a little bit interesting. But I also wanted to highlight that the subjects that had 1 meal per day reported increased feelings of hunger, desireness to eat, and decreased feelings of fullness compared to the 3 meals a day. So again, the overall theme of intermittent fasting is, yes, weight loss. Again, that's what is going to happen because you only have a certain amount of time that you can eat. But it does matter. I believe it matters what you eat, but everyone's different and you got to cater to your own needs. So let's talk about what we can eat while we fast. You can't really eat anything. You can have as many fluids as you want, but they have to be low calorie, or I mean, I guess essentially 0 calorie. Water, tea, when you make your coffee, should be black. No cream or sugar added, or yeah, no sugar. That's gonna increase your your blood sugars. Yeah, and this might be rhetorical, but yeah, it's not recommended to pack your feeding times with high calorie junk foods. Mediterranean diet has been suggested as a good, I guess, blueprint as far as what one should eat, which is what I'm going to talk about right now. Again, I want to highlight that that anyone who's considering intermittent fasting should first and foremost consult their primary care physician, and then cater to your own needs and your likes. Mediterranean diet consists of lean proteins such as baked fish, chicken, eggs, egg whites, low-fat yogurt, pork loin, tuna. Of course, we want to include our leafy greens, our vegetables, kale, spinach, arugula, carrots. The list goes on. Fruits. We want to have our healthy fats. I'd say the fats and the protein are going to be really needed to sustain your energy levels and also some flavor. You know, it'll be of benefit if someone is doing intermittent fasting and really includes like 1/3 of all macronutrients, carbs, healthy fats, lean proteins, also getting some fiber in there will be of great benefit. So really, I mean, there's a lot of pros to intermittent fasting. We've seen that it'll support weight loss and improve metabolic health, and that's usually tested through blood pressure. When you get your blood sugars checked, a lipid panel. These are all ways to determine and see how intermittent fasting is potentially benefiting internally the body's like processes and mechanisms. It can create a caloric deficit, and again, with that will create weight loss. I think with time, it'll regulate appetite. Not within the first month or 2 months or 3 months. I think if people are really sticking to intermittent fasting for several months, maybe 6 months or close to a year, I think the body can be able to adapt to the new lifestyle change. For a lot of people, this lifestyle is very sustainable. I think of people, forgive me, I believe it is Muslims who fast during Ramadan. So a lot of studies came out from that, saying that when you study from dusk to, or fast from dusk till dawn, it's clearly sustainable and again supports maintaining a healthy weight. Like I said prior, intermittent fasting works well with nutritious whole foods. I think if people are using this as a way to just like eat whatever they want, I don't think that they will be getting the benefits that they really want to see when doing this method, when using intermittent fasting as a method to potentially lose weight. And again, to highlight many pros: weight loss, insulin resistance, inflammation, heart health, cancer, brain. I mean, there really is a lot of benefit. There's something called autophagy. And what that is your cells die and create new cells. And that works in relation with something called the human growth hormone, HGH. And HGH is beneficial for weight loss. It increases, I actually believe it promotes fat loss and increases muscle mass. Not that many cons, but it's like that thing where, okay, it might go against your intuition. What if you are really hungry? And you know, it's like we have intermittent fasting, and then on this other hand, intuitive eating. Everyone's saying, oh, eat as you desire. In the beginning with intermittent fasting, I think it's common, obviously, to feel hungry in the beginning. You know, your body's not used to this. It's going through changes. It typically takes, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks for that metabolic switch to happen, like we were talking about earlier, from completely switching from glycogen now to ketones as your primary energy source. And lastly, could affect your mood. You know, you want to have a bagel, can't. So, you know, maybe feeling, you know, low blood sugar levels could potentially cause this. But like I said, I think with time and consistency, if anyone were to decide to pursue with this, then with time, I think that can be adapted and moods can be well managed. Again, I want to highlight to consult a medical doctor. It's not recommended if you are underweight, if you've had a history of eating disorders, if you have diabetes, any problems with blood sugar, if you have low blood pressure, if you're taking medications, trying to conceive, history of amenorrhea. There's a couple, I'd say, like, reasons probably why intermittent fasting would not be the way to go. Or even if you're an athlete, this is not, I personally would not suggest this, but of course, consult with a healthcare professional. That's all I have for you guys today. So I hope y'all learned something, and I hope we can have some discussion and Q&A. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily.
Yeah.
And we're going to open it up to questions now. So y'all please either type it in all right, Gwen. Yes, the slides will be posted in YouTube. Yeah, but y'all feel free to just jump in with questions.
Alice, you're muted.
Mom, you're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go.
Okay, did that work? Okay,
Yes.
all right, so you're talking about 16-hour fasting. What, are there any good effects for, say, 12-hour fasting?
That's a great question. I would say yes. And you know what? I'm so happy you brought this up. I would, if it were me personally, if I were starting out doing this, 16-hour fast is a little extreme for me. I think it would be of benefit to maybe start small, 10, or like you said, 12, and then work your way up, because yes, there is still very much a benefit. You're allowing your body and your organs to reset, to take the time that they need to metabolize and do their processes. You are also, I'll put it this way. Every time you eat something, your insulin hormone is going off. Okay. And so insulin, not to scare anyone, because we need insulin, it's good. We need insulin to get the glucose in our bodies. But what that's saying is insulin is a fat storing hormone. It is. That's what we learn in school. It's a fat storing hormone. So what that should tell you is, okay, every time I'm eating, my insulin is being released. So when I'm fasting, insulin is not being released. And now my body is using my glycogen stores to keep my energy going. And then it'll eventually go to my fat stores, which all in all leads to weight loss.
Okay.
All right, we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
It looks like people lost about 1 pound per week on intermittent fasting. Should that not also be possible by eating a healthy diet and restricting calories somewhat? I'm a little confused with the question.
I think they're saying, and Kitty, correct me if I'm wrong, but that you can achieve the same results by calorie restriction and healthy diet than you can with intermittent fasting.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right, Kitty. I think it should be, like I said, it's gonna cater to your needs and do what you want to do, because some people maybe have done the calorie restriction and it just has not worked for them. So an alternative method to weight loss could be this intermittent fasting.
Okay.
But I agree with you for sure.
And Gwen is asking about, for a 60-year-old male, what would you suggest as a way to ease into this?
Again, I think, of course, I suggest he talk to his medical doctor, as I am not his physician. But similarly, yeah, I do think starting small, kind of like what Alice said, at 12 hours, like just start at that. Just start 12 hours a week, or fast 12 hours every day that week. Next week, you bump it up to 13 hours, and then the following 14. Nothing wrong with going slow. There's no, weight loss should be something where you are consistent, and you shouldn't be depriving yourself of your nutritional needs. So I think if this 60-year-old man were to maybe start kind of like how you said, 12 hours and then work his way up to 16, or he might like doing the 5-2 approach. So it's kind of like what is best suited for the individual, because everyone has different schedules, different wake up time, sleeping time. So I hope that answered that question.
She says thank you. Another question, are you or have you used intermittent fasting? And if so, which variation?
That's a good question. Yes, so it's like sort of, I don't really know how to describe it because I kind of maybe tie in intuitive eating with how I feel. When I fast, I try my best to actually do 12 hours. So last night, like if my last meal was at 10 p.m. When I wake up the next morning, if I'm hungry, I will eat something. If I'm not hungry, I will hang around until 10:30. That's when I usually get hungry for me personally. But everyone's different, and I usually drink, water first thing in the morning. That also helps suppress my appetite first thing if I had one. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely, I find it beneficial for sure. Yeah.
I have heard, and this is just hearsay, but that intermittent fasting definitely works for men, but that for women, it might have some negative effect on metabolism. Did you come across anything like that?
I didn't. And of course, always the guys get away with
Right.
the most easiest things ever. But it's like, it's kind of like that thing where women, we are supposed to have more body fat. We need that body fat. We need it to bear children. So it's like, men also have more testosterone. And so and testosterone, there's some parallels with testosterone and that human growth hormone that I was talking about, that HGH. So when you combine testosterone, which is a fat burning hormone, and when you combine that with HGH, and if you're a guy and you're fasting and you're probably working out, but yeah, it's a little bit different for us women because we don't have that much testosterone. Maybe we should take some steroids. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Donna, did you have a question or?
It's more of a comment.
Or comment, yes.
Dietitians really want to get to the bottom of these plans when something comes out like this. And Lily and I both agree that from the literature, the only thing this is doing is restricting calories. And if you're a grazer and you eat 24/7, some people even get up in the night and eat. And if you go on a plan like this, you're not controlling as much what you eat as when you eat. And depending on what kind of eater you are, like let's say, I know people who only eat a couple meals a day and they just don't get hungry in between. It's just how their bodies are. Well, they may not even need to do this. And also, if you have someone, we didn't really get into too much about eating disorders, but let's say you have someone with an eating disorder and it's a binge eating disorder, you know how much you can eat in 8 hours if you put your mind to it. So it's still a matter of calories, no matter how you look at it. And if you're someone who needs that, it's almost like saying, like we can't say we're not going to eat. Like there's some people that need to do an abstinence program for various substances, but you can't do that with food. So let's say you have somewhat of a food addiction, which is really psychological, then you may not be able to resist it. If it's especially, when I go over to my son's house, my word, they have so much food out visible that it's ridiculous, really. And, they do a lot of baking with the kids and there's cookies and muffins and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I already know when I'm going over there, it's going to be rough. And so, you know, that's my issue. So if I'm on a fast and I'm saying to myself, well, I'm not going to eat between these hours, I don't care what it is, even if it's the best thing in the world that I love the most. If I'm saying I'm going to abstain from eating during this time period, that does help some people. So it's boundaries is really what it boils down to. But Lily and I both were wondering, you know, is there some metabolic trick that this is turning on? And it's really not. In the literature, it's pretty conclusive. It's really still all about calories. So yes, if you restrict your calories and exercise on a daily basis, you probably aren't trying to lose weight in the first place. But there is a point that you wouldn't want to go lower. Like, let's say, if you're eating 1,200 calories a day, you have to eat at least that much to get all your nutrients in. If you're still having problems, maybe you're not counting the calories right, maybe it's extra snacking. And that's where a plan like this could help, to just say, okay, I just am not going to eat between these hours. So, so that is one aspect of it. Another thing is, as soon as you say you're not going to eat, you do set up food seeking behavior. And so, you know, if being on this plan makes you eat more because now you're obsessed with food because you can't eat it, maybe this isn't the right plan. So that's what Lily, and by the way, Lily is a recipient of one of those philanthropy board scholarships, and she's headed into some really great research coming up. And she told me, I'm her mentor, she told me that she wants to do more public speaking. So I want you all to, you know, let her know, how did she do? So,
Yes, please let me know.
Very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. So anyway, I just thought I would add a few things like that, because, you know, when you have a different perspective because of your own struggles, you can add information. So yeah, I've struggled my whole entire life. So, and I've tried to do fasting from various things, fasting from sugar, that's a fast. So you can come up with your own plans too. There's no secret sauce here, and this one is just, you know, restricting. But I do want to add this. I don't do it now, I should, but years ago, I fasted one day a week for sun up to sundown for spiritual reasons. And my body weight was lower. But, you know, that was a place where I was really seeking God's will for my life. And one time I fasted for 3 whole days, like Esther did. Like, I have got to have an answer to this. And I almost fainted. My kids begged me to stop. It's tough to do that. So, but I didn't stop, and I got my answer. So I'm in a good place in my life right now with great students like Lily. So I'll turn it back over to Lily.
Thanks so much, Donna. But yeah, I mean, she said it best. It's not a matter of what you're eating, it's a matter of when. So
I have one more question.
yes.
So at the very beginning of the presentation, you said that consistency was key.
Yes.
So if, like you said, you personally might try to do a 12-hour fast, but if you wake up and you're hungry, you eat. So then are you negating the effects of the fasting?
Right.
Or can you still have positive effects even if you're not totally consistent?
So that one, I think, is like we have to go through my whole week to like answer that question. Like I'd have to, and like even my whole day, that has to factor in how much water I've had that day. Did I work out that day? Did I work out the day before? So all these things kind of matter. I don't know. I feel like that's yes, yes, it's a little bit negating, like kind of going against it, but then it's like, well, how am I feeling? So that I think it just depends. It
Lily, can I jump in?
jumped right in.
So if, let's say you're on a ketogenic diet, okay, this is not a ketogenic diet. Okay, so a ketogenic diet, you get in a certain range of carbohydrate intake because you're trying to maintain ketosis. And that's a whole different objective than this. So, if you're eating carbohydrates in the day, you're not truly in a ketogenic state. So let's say you woke up and you were hungry. Well, maybe during the time you were allowed to eat, you were really busy and you didn't get a chance to eat the amount of food you needed for that day to maintain all your nutritional needs, which is really important. We're not saying that your nutritional needs are not important. And I would even, if I were going to do it, I would take a multivitamin supplement, because when you start cutting out chunks of time, you may or may not get all of your vitamins and minerals you need. But anyway, let's say one day I was trying to do this and I could eat between 12 noon and 8 p.m. But I had meetings all day that afternoon and I didn't actually get to eat the food I had planned to eat. And then I wake up in the night and I'm hungry. I don't think it would affect it wouldn't negate anything, because you're not truly fasting anyway to the point of ketosis. So it's still about calories. And if we can remember that, then this shouldn't be so restrictive that it, ruins your life. So it's a very practical solution. So, use common sense on that kind of thing. Remember, you're not really fasting to the point of ketosis. So, on a regular basis, like
On a regular, yes.
on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
Because you do burn ketones after, what did you say, Lily? 18 hours?
Yeah, like actually starting at 24.
Okay,
Because
so if you're not fasting for 24 hours anyway, you're not burning ketones. It's still about calories.
Yeah. Tracy? Did you have a question, Tracy?
Yeah, I do. And Donna may have answered it. I was taking notes when you had some of your earlier slides up, so I didn't see the time frames that you had put up for like an example of a 16-8.
Oh, yeah. So
could you?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it showed that it was an 8-hour chunk, all consecutive.
Mm-hmm.
Could you break that into a 4-hour chunk in the morning and a 4-hour chunk in the evening? Like, because I usually get up really early, so if I did like 6 to 10 in the morning as a possible eating time, and then 4 to 8 in the evening, to still equal 8 hours, but break it into 2 pieces. Is that?
I would adjust it to where you are kind of leave it in that consecutive 8-hour frame. So like if you wake up at between 6 a.m. I see what you're saying, right? Between like 6 and 2, if you can. No, because that's kind of, you're breaking your fast.
Okay.
You'd be like breaking it. So that schedule, let me pull that back up, because you can, that's just like the standard. That's what normally people do between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. But you can adjust it to your own schedule. This is the one you're talking about, right?
Right.
You're counting your sleeping hours as fasting. So that's when you would eat.
Yeah, but when you go to bed late and you get up early, there's not a lot of sleeping hours.
That's true.
So Tracy, I would suggest to you maybe like start with like a 12-hour fast instead. And then maybe like you can like figure it out. Cause like I do think there's maybe little loopholes that you can get through, because like if you for sure this the intermittent fasting also requires a lot of discipline. So if you can be for sure disciplined that you're not going to eat between that 4 or 5 hour gap really early between really late at night, then I don't know, maybe try it. This is where like the individual who's doing it, they're kind of their own experimenter, they're their own researcher. So and I'd like to highlight that while we are all the same, we are also different. Everyone is going to metabolize differently, feel differently. We can come to like a general conclusion, but it's going to be different. So you have to cater to you.
I would add that if you're only going to eat during 8 hours of the day, but you pick 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the evening, chances are you're going to eat more, because let's say you're saying 12 to 8. Well, if you eat at 12, you probably won't get hungry again till 3 or 4. But if you set that up on 2 different times, then it may defeat the purpose of the restricted hours, because you might eat more. So you have to remember that it's still about how much you're eating in the 24-hour period. You know, I could pick hours where I'm super hungry normally every day, or I could pick hours where I'm really not even that hungry, and you would eat a different amount.
That's a good idea. I mean, I'm clearly not an expert, but that seems like it would be a good approach to figure out the times of day when you really want to eat, when you're really craving food, when you might normally overeat, and then allow yourself to eat during that time, and
Right,
restrict other times when you're not necessarily always craving food. Like for me, it's always in the afternoon. Like I always want a snack in the afternoon. Like, and so if I was doing that 16-8, that would really work for me, because I don't necessarily want breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just an example of eating. Those are examples of when to set up the 8 hours.
Cool. Do you have any other questions? All right. Well, Lily and Donna, thank you so much. I've learned a lot. I can't wait to tell my husband everything I've learned. And thank you all so much for joining us. If you would like to share this information with anyone else or go back and revisit it, again, it will be on our Women's Philanthropy Board YouTube page, which is aub.ie/WPB YouTube, or you can just go to our YouTube channel or go to YouTube and search for Women's Philanthropy Board and it should pull up. Also, if you want to be added to our email list, if you're not on our email list, you want to know about future programs, we'll be happy to add you. Our next program is going to be on financial stress and how it can affect the family and how you can deal with it. So that'll be coming up in a couple of months, but we'd love to share that information with you as well. So thank you all for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.